Alright, so I did my poem on Anne Sexton. She was born with her name Anne Gray Harvey. She was born in Newton, Massachusetts, with her parents Ralph Churchill Harvey and Mary Gray Staples Harvey. She went to public school in Wellesley, Massachusetts from 1934 to 47. And from 1945 to 47, she went to the Rogers Hall Preparatory School for Girls in Lowell, Massachusetts. And after that, she went into Garland Junior College in Boston, Massachusetts from 1947 to 1948. At the age of 19, Anne married Alfred Muller Kyle Sexton II. She eloped with him on the 16th of August, 1948. And she was a beautiful woman who worked modeling for some time, and with that modeling, she earned a scholarship to college. And after that, she had her first child, Linda Grace Sexton, on the 25th of July in 1953. And that picture on the right is a photo of her now. The following year, after she had her first child, she was admitted into the mental institution after a nervous breakdown. And after the hospital, she had her second child, Joyce Lance Sexton, on the 5th of August, 1955. And again, the following year after, she was hospitalized again with her mental illness. And in 1956, that was her first. She had her first suicidal attempt, which would be a continual suicidal attempts afterwards. But with that, she had a new course in her life, with her psychiatrist suggesting that she write poetry as a way to get her feelings out. And that hit off to a fantastic start. Her first volume of poetry, to put them partway back in 1960, was put together from her experiences being in a hospital and her anguish with her children always being sent away with other relatives, and of her being in those hospitals for so many times. In 1957 and 58, she attended a poetry workshop with John Holmes, and that was the beginning of many, many more conferences and workshops. But during all that time, she was always under the care of a psychiatrist. She was also hospitalized 2 more times. In 1965, she became recognized as a great poet, and she became a member of the Royal Society of Literature. And in 1967, she won the Poetry Society of America's Shelley Memorial Award. And in 1966, her collection Live or Die won the Pulitzer Prize. And with all her suicidal attempts she finally committed suicide at 3:30 p.m. on the 4th of October 1974 by carbon monoxide poisoning in her garage. And with that, she was a congressional poet, which means she was intimate about the different little details of her life. And in her poems, she wrote plainly about her painful details in her life. She presented the truth about herself, her experiences, and her psychic life. Her subject matter always tied back to her mental therapy with her psychiatrist, and with her times being in mental institutions. And with that, it was always being, from the poems that I read, it is dark and depressing and just stark, naked, bare on her emotion, not any padding or cushioning for that. This first poem, Cigarettes and Whiskey and Wild Wild Woman. I'm going to read it first and then I'll analyze it after. Perhaps I was born kneeling, born coughing on the long winter, born expecting the kiss of mercy, born with a passion for quickness, and yet as things progressed, I learned early about the stockade or taken out, the fume of the enema, By 2 or 3 I learn not to kneel, not to expect, to plant my fires underground, where none but the dolls, perfect and awful, could be whispered to or laid down to die. Though that I have written many words, and let out so many loves for so many, and been altogether what I always was, a woman of excess of zeal and greed, I find the effort useless. Do I not look in a mirror these days, and see a drunken rat avert her eyes? Do I not feel the hunger so acutely that I would rather die than look into his face? I kneel once more, in case mercy should come in the nick of time. Okay, so with this, at the beginning of her poem, she says, I was born kneeling, born expecting, and, a few lines down, it says that learned not to kneel, not to expect, and that contradicts what she had first said at the beginning of her poem. But with that, it also says, as things progressed, so also that is as she matured, as she learned the ways of her life, as she learned to deal with her life there, she, as I said, learned not to kneel, which kneeling can also be a sign of, being down in, basically at the feet of someone, at their beck and call, and as she learned not to do that, or to, come begging or asking, and, not to be expecting mercy from anyone, and that you should expect the opposite, or just nothing at all. And that brings a sense of her starting into that dark atmosphere with that. And with it as well, at the beginning, she points out coughing on the long winter. And when you think of coughing, you think of being sick and having a cold, being stuck at home indoors on your bed with, tissues and all snot face and, a hot cup of tea, which is nothing, nobody likes coughing, nobody likes having a cold. And along with that, with the long winters are uncomfortable, they're long, they're cold, nobody likes winter, or to be out shoveling, scraping the ice off your cars, that, brings that sense of right away in the poem of it being uncomfortable and how she feels essentially with that. And in this next section, where she's describing dolls, she says it's perfect and awful, and with that, those two are completely contradicting each other. But as she says perfect first, like when she first thinks of dolls, she thinks of perfect, but after, in the end, it's awful, leaving that whole summary of just being awful and horrible. And this next section is where she begins, in a way, to describe herself with excess of zeal and greed, and a drunken rat averting her eyes. That is her viewing herself as nothing spectacular, nothing wonderful. She sees herself as maybe something to be killed and put out, because when you think of rats, you think of, like a mousetrap, or killing them and getting rid of them. See how she feels about herself. And also at the end, she brings him back the kneeling part with maybe I kneel once more in case mercy should come in the nick of time. That maybe there is hope. Maybe I need to learn again. Maybe I need to look at this differently. But that is Cigarettes and Whiskey and Wild, Wild Woman. This next poem is The Child Bearers. And I will read it. Jean Death comes close to us all, flapping his awful wings at us, and the gluey wings crawl up our nose. Our children tremble in their teenage cribs, whirling off on a thumb or a motorcycle. Mine push into gnawing us still bestial cancer. I passed on like hemophilia. or yours in the 7th grade with her spleen smacked in by the balance beam. And we mothers, crumpled and fly-spotted with bringing them this far, can do nothing now but pray. Let us put our 3 children and my 2 children, ages ranging from 11 to 21, and send them in a large air net up to God, with many stamps, real airmail, and huge signs attached. Special handling, do not staple, fold, or mutilate. And perhaps he will notice and pass a psalm over them for keeping safe for a whole goddamned lifespan. And not even a muddled angel will peek down at us in our foxhole. And he will not have time to send down an eyedropper of prayer for us. The mothering thing of us as we drip into the soup and drown, and the worrying festering inside us, lest our children go so fast they go. And this also brings a sense of depressing and that dark tone that she has with her poems. As in the beginning right away, she is saying death and awful, which are describing words that don't bring any pleasant thoughts at all. And in this section right here, it says, our children trembling in their teenage cribs. This is kind of a way of showing how they lose their kids by death or by other means, and she describes it in such a gruesome way with whirling, gnawing cancer, spleen smacked. It just comes and hits you straight in the face at all these horrible things that happen and how a mother is supposed to be dealing with them. And next, and as your mothers crumpled and fly-spotted with bringing them this far, can do nothing now but pray. And with that, saying how the mothers are, their reaction to their children dying in that way or losing them, and how they really can't do anything about it now. All they really have to do is pray, and that's all that they can do, which is also sad and that dark tone, because it's like you can do nothing about something so horrible that has happened. In this next section, let us put your 3 children and my 2 children. Basically this next section with in a large air net, stamps, real airmail. That is kind of funny in a way that they're in a way mocking God and mocking possibly Christians or heaven in general. Where it says special handling, do not staple, fold, or mutilate, and also pass a psalm, like in the Bible where it speaks of Psalms and, God having mercy and all that. And this is kind of just smack in the face with God, mocking him, having that dark feeling towards him, not liking him, and saying that he doesn't really care, he doesn't give a crap about us. There's not even a muddled angel will peek down to his foxhole or send down an eyedropper. He won't cry for us. He won't care. How could God let this happen? God just brought this upon us. And then God takes our children away from us. And the mothers are just there to suffer and to learn how to live with the fact that they lost their children and the fact that you're never going to see them again. And that also brings that sense of being depressing and dark in a way that it's sad. That you lose your child, God takes it away, you can't do anything about it. You're supposed to move on with life and live with the fact that God took a child, but he, in her eyes, did not take care about the mother. And that is Anne Sexton for you.